Yo, what's up, guys? Back here with another video. We're gonna do our UFC 311 picks. Decided to do them a bit earlier than I usually do, just because I got a lot of videos lined up and I want to make those videos after the picks I make. I'm gonna go real good with these picks, man. I got some interesting fights that I want to go over. A lot of close fights. I think a lot of people, based on the odds, would think that these fights are pretty not close, but I think the odds makers are wrong. And let's just start with Jailton Almeida versus Spivak. Good heavyweight contender fight. I think this might not be a title eliminator, but I think whoever wins this will probably get a title eliminator in the next one. I mean, we got Spivak, we got Almeida. Spivak's more of like a judo kind of wrestler kind of guy, and Almeida's more of a grappling guy. I mean, this is going to be a good technical fight. These are probably the more technical heavyweights we've seen. Spivak just won recently over Taipura, and Almeida won against Romanov, I think. So, I think this is going to be a good one. I think this is we're going to see some good exchanges, some good grappling exchanges. We barely see that in heavyweight. It's more about striking in heavyweight. But this is going to be a good one. And I'm going to go with Almeida. I think Almeida's going to probably win by decision, but he probably could win by submission as well. I think Spivak's pretty good, but I think in terms of the striking, the more well-rounded fighter, I think Almeida is just a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's gonna prove why he's a dangerous contender. And I mean, his last win was very impressive, and he's on a streak right now. So definitely don't see his momentum dying down with this fight. I think he's gonna win this. So I'm gonna go with Almeida by decision. Next, we got Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. So this is like more the young guy versus the old veteran. And I mean, Barcelos isn't super old, but he is kind of old. And I think Peyton Talbot's gonna easily take this one. I just think Talbot is the more he's the more powerful striker. He's the better striker. He's also a lot younger, a lot more athletic, and he's just on a roll right now. He has a ton of momentum. I think this is a pretty good step up in competition compared to his last fight. So I do see this fight not really being as like one sided as like the odds say. I think the odds look like they're minus 1350 favorite, man. There's a very big favorite. Talbot's got some hype on his name right now. He's on a streak. I mean, the man's well rounded. He's a really good striker. He's getting knockouts left and right, and I don't think this is the fight that's gonna fraud check him. So I think after this fight, I think Talbot definitely deserves a shot at maybe the top 15, and definitely can't wait for this fight. I think this fight's gonna be fireworks. I think this is going to showcase Talbot maybe going into that next step, with the next level of competition. So I'm going to go Talbot. I'm going to go by knockout. I think this is a pretty easy pick. I mean, he's a very massive favorite. No reason whatsoever why he shouldn't be. So, sure, I'm going to put him there. Next, we got Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Alekena. Well, Guskov definitely got screwed when it came to this fight. I can't even open the menu for some reason. But I think this is going to be a very easy fight for Guskov. I mean, compared to Johnny Walker, it's just like he's now fighting down in the rankings, which honestly I don't think he deserved. But this is the only one who could fight on short notice. I think that short notice thing is definitely going to affect this fight a bit. I'm going to lead with Guskov. I'm going to go by knockout. He's the underdog in this fight, which I think is kind of weird. The odds here are just really not good, in my opinion. So, sure, I'm going to go with Guskov. Guskov by knockout. I think this is going to be a very easy fight for Guskov. And I think after this fight, he deserves a top 10 matchup for sure. Maybe we can have Johnny Walker fight Guskov again. Or maybe we'll have him get a different opponent. Because I think Johnny Walker definitely, I think he got injured, like a knee injury. And also, I think it's good for him to take a break. He just got knocked out twice last year, so I think it's a good break for him, for his chin. I think maybe it'll help him recover a bit. Maybe think about some better decisions, like moving up to heavyweight. But other than that, I got Gustave by knockout. I think this is going to be an easy fight for him. And I don't think Alekane is really going to, on like almost like a week, 2 weeks short notice, I just don't think it's going to work out in his favor. When it comes to short notice fighters, I don't really try to bet on them or pick on them that much. So I'm gonna go with Gustave just because he's just more prepared for this fight. He is the better fighter. He's also a ranked guy. He's on up momentum right now. I think this is a good fight for him. So I'm gonna go with Gustave. If you want an underdog pick, choose Gustave because he's definitely gonna win this. Next we got Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder for the main card opener. This is a good fight. I mean, Kevin Holland, he's come off an injury loss against Dolidze. Which honestly, I based on that fight, a lot of people were thinking that Kevin Holland was gonna win that. I mean, based on how Dolidze was doing on the ground, I think it kind of did expose Kevin Holland's kind of takedown defense a bit, and that's what going into this fight, that's where I kind of see a problem. But Kevin Holland's obviously the better striker when it comes to this, and I just don't think de Ridder really is at this point where he's going to massively improve his striking. And I think the only way for de Ridder to win this is by taking this fight to the ground, by putting it in his backyard. But Kevin Holland is, just like Meerschaert, he's a very experienced submission artist. He got a ton of submissions. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think it's going to be hard for him. And I think this is honestly going to be war. I don't think de Ridder's the type of guy to really give out or give up, And I don't see him getting really knocked out. Granted, when you do put him against a good striker, he definitely does worse. But I just think, like, Kevin Holland, he's just not... It's really hard to bet on Kevin Holland sometimes. It really is. Because I'm just saying this, not saying he's not a good fighter. I'm just saying he doesn't really go into the fights trying to win a lot of times. He goes in, he puts on some good highlights. Maybe he gets a good win or two. But when it comes to experienced fighters, when it comes to people, who are actually pretty good, who are actually up in the rankings, it's like he kind of doesn't really step into the next gear, When it comes to Michael Venom Page, when it came to Roman Dolidze, when it came to Steven Wonderboy and Wonderboy Thompson, It's like he kind of falters when it comes to those type of fighters, right? So I think it's honestly going to be a very close fight. I think it's not going to be such an easy layup for Kevin Holland. I think Reinier de Ridder is definitely going to put that pressure on him. But if I were to pick someone to win this fight, if this doesn't go to the ground, and I don't think Kevin Holland's going to try to be... I don't think he's really easily submittable. Because, really, apart from, Khamzat Chimaev, it's he's pretty good on the ground when it comes to his fights. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland by decision. This is a 3-rounder. I think Kevin Holland's easily going to kind of expose de Ridder's striking, kind of destroy his momentum, and I just think Kevin Holland's a huge step up with competition, But also, I think de Ridder can definitely win this. But if I were to go with a pick right now, I'm going to go with Kevin Holland by decision. Next, we got Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Finally, he's getting a top 10 opponent. Well, he's already top 10, but he's finally getting a step up at an opponent. Granted, I didn't think he was going to fight Beneil Dariush. I thought he was going to fight maybe Dan Hooker. But I think Dan Hooker is fighting Justin Gaethje next. So, it's a good fight. This is a really good step up in competition, Moicano, he's coming off a streak right now. He TKO'd Jalen Turner. He pretty much KO'd Benoit Saint-Denis, Dr. Stops. He brutalized him. He brutalized Benoit Saint-Denis, who everyone thought would brutalize Moicano. I think when it comes to the ground, Moicano's very experienced, but his striking leaves a lot to be desired, And I think Beneil Dariush is probably, apart from his chin, he's very much well-rounded. He has good striking, he has really good grappling, he has good wrestling. I think this is going to be a huge step up in competition for Moicano, and I think this is going to be the fight where we get to see that. Is Dariush able to come back? Dariush has spent the whole of 2024 kind of recovering, and I think this is way more than enough time to recover from 2 devastating knockouts, You got Volkanovski in 2023, 2 knockouts, right? In less than a year, he got knocked out first round by Charles Oliveira, then he got knocked out again in the first round by Arman Sarukian. So, it was definitely needed. He needed to take the rest of 2024 off. And I think this is a good time. You know, he was in there. He's working on his stuff. I don't think ring rust is such a huge issue for him, but he is getting up there in age. And I think Renato Moicano's just on a high right now. I think he's on a big streak. He's definitely improving his striking a bit, as we saw against Benoit Saint Denis. And I think this is going to be a good fight. I don't see Moicano out grappling Dariush. I don't think Moicano is going to win on the ground. I think it's going to be very even on the ground. I think Dariush is definitely going to have some advantages when it comes to the grappling. But if this is kept on the feet, I think Moicano can have the chance to knock out Dariush. You know, we don't know if his chin's really fully recovered. But Moicano's not really the type of guy to really he doesn't have that knockout power, right? And we've seen Moicano fight against experienced lightweights, and there leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think Moicano's going to win this one. It's kind of sad to see. I like Moicano, but I think Dariush is just too well-rounded. He's too good on the feet. He's too good on the ground. I don't think Moicano's going to pose that many problems for him. So I'm going to go with Dariush by decision. It's 3 rounds, so I think, yeah, by decision. And I think this is going to show, like, levels to this, because Dariush is still very much a good fighter. He's had ample amount of time to recover. I think Dariush is going to come in there and bring and show levels in this fight. Drinking some Gatorade. Anyways, but don't sleep on Moicano. You know, I think Moicano's a favorite in this fight, which makes sense. But I think Dariush is a good pick. I would pick Dariush. I think Dariush definitely puts a case for himself to kind of getting back up there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Moicano won. I wouldn't. So I'm gonna go with Dariush by decision, but prove me wrong, Moicano. Prove me that you really have stepped up your game, because so far in the competition, type of competition Moicano's had, it's like he's doing so well on the ground against people who aren't really that experienced on the ground, and it's like when you're putting him against someone like Dariush, who's super experienced, who was before the Charles Oliveira fight, he was on a huge win streak. You know, I think this is going to be a good fight, and I think this is going to either show Moicano's level or show that Dariush has come back. So I'm going to go Dariush by decision. Next, we got the feature bout, Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill, and man, this is a fight that I've wanted for a while now, honestly. They were originally Jamal Hill was originally slated to defend against Yuri Prochazka, but I think Jamal Hill got injured, and then later Yuri Prochazka fought Alex Pereira for the title. Then Jamal Hill fought Alex Pereira for the title, and then they both got knocked out. So this is now kind of like a, will this be a title limiter? I really don't want this to be. I don't want either of these guys to get a title shot anytime soon, especially after this win. I just don't think it's really that impressive, you know? And I think, in my opinion, I think the real title eliminator, after Ankalaev for sure, I think Ankalaev's getting the first title shot this year. I think the real title eliminator is Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz. I think that is the better title eliminator, because I think the winner of that fight might actually fight for the title. So if this is really a title eliminator match, which I really don't want it to be, I don't think any of these guys, Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, I don't think these guys deserve a title shot. They got styled on. Yuri Prochazka styled on twice by Alex Pereira. Jamal Hill got knocked out easily in the first round. I mean, it just goes to show, like, they need more to kind of justify another title shot, right? But now we got this fight. I think this is still a good fight. This is a fight that I've been waiting for to happen. I mean, these are two very eloquent strikers, two more talented light heavyweight strikers in this decision. Yuri Prochazka, division. Yuri Prochazka, his chin has been very suspicious, but he has very unorthodox striking. Doesn't really focus on defense, but more focuses on the offense. And Jamal Hill, he's very technical, kind of like standstill striker. He knows where to hit. He's very selective when it comes to the shots he puts out. I think this is going to be a good technical fight, and I think Yuri Prochazka is definitely going to go in here with revenge. I think Jamal Hill is going to come in here and try to show everyone that, hey, you all been hating on me ever since I lost. This is who I am. I think Jamal Hill is definitely coming here the hungrier fighter. But I think this is going to be a good, entertaining fight. This is going to be a war. And for 3 rounds, I actually do see Jamal Hill kind of getting the edge in this fight. I think Jamal Hill could actually knock out Yuri Prokaska. Just because I think Yuri's chin is it's kind of gone, Alex Pereira knocked him out twice. And after that, after getting knocked out like that, it's like they kind of need more time to recover. It's only been 6 months since Yuri's fought, so I do think Jamal Hill could definitely do it. He could definitely knock him out, but I'm gonna be real. I'm picking Yuri for this fight, just because I think Jamal Hill is coming off a very huge layoff. I think Yuri's gonna come in there. He's gonna be the dominating striker in this fight. He's gonna put on that pressure. And maybe Jamal Hill could catch him, but I really doubt it. And I think Yuri could definitely win this. I think he could definitely knock out Jamal Hill. It's definitely possible. I mean, Jamal Hill doesn't really have huge power. I mean, let's be real. He couldn't knock out a 43-year-old Glover when he was 43 a.m., right? Jamal Hill's not really known that much by his exemplary power. Like, apart from the Johnny Walker knockout, it's like, who else? Who else? Johnny Walker can get knocked out by anybody. He got knocked out by a guy 40 pounds lighter than him, who was an amateur. That guy can get knocked out by anybody. So, I think Yuri Prokaska is going to come in here. He's going to do some wishy-washy, samurai-style striking and somehow beat Jamal Hill. And you know what? I think Yuri Prokaska is the Dricus du Plessis of this light heavyweight division. For some reason, this guy just always manages to win. Except when it comes to Alex Pereira. So, I think Yuri got this. And Yuri, this is pick 'em odds, actually. Almost a pick 'em odds. Minus 108, minus 112. I think this is a very even match. So, I'm putting my bets on Yuri. I think Yuri's going to come back and he's going to demand a trilogy of Alex Pereira. And we're going to see Alex Pereira knock his ass out again. No, I'm sorry, Yuri. Anyways, now back to the bread and butter. The real reason why I love this event. I mean, obviously, all the fights here are very good, but man, this is a good one. We got Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Let me tell you something. This is a good fight. This is a really good fight. No, both of these guys haven't fought any of what their opponents, right? Well, let me explain this. Umar has never fought someone like Merab, and Merab has never fought someone like Umar, except maybe Henry Cejudo, but Henry Cejudo's strike wrestling and Umar's wrestling is very different. But here we got this very technical fight. I think this is going to be a good one. I think this is very evenly matched. And when I say evenly matched, I mean very evenly matched. I think Merab has an equal chance of beating Umar, and I think he has a very big advantage in this fight. And let me tell you, let's first look at the odds. Plus 260, minus 325. These odds are fucking ass. And when I mean ass, I mean this is going to be the best pick you're going to pick. I'm going Merab by decision. This is very obviously going to be the case. I think Umar has a ton of hype going into this fight. I think he has a ton of reasons why he could win this fight. I think Umar's striking is better than Merab's. The problem is, what about his takedown defense? People are always talking about, hey, Umar is going to wrestle the hell out of Merab. He's going to knock out Merab. He could. He could definitely knock out Merab. But what about the wrestling defense? What about Umar has shown that his wrestling defense can handle Merab's? If Peter Yan couldn't handle Merab's wrestling, how could Umar? If Jose Aldo couldn't handle Merab, how about Umar? Now, this is not to hate on Umar. I think Umar is a very talented fighter, and I think Umar could definitely win this fight, for sure. I mean, I'm not surprised he's the favorite at all. I was expecting him to be a favorite even in this fight, even though Merab is champion, right? Just because Umar, he comes from Dagestan, he's undefeated, he's related to Khabib, Khabib is his coach, he trains with Islam, he has all these things that kind of, the odds makers look at this and think, okay, this guy might actually win. He could actually win. But let's look at the facts here. When we're talking about grappling, we got to look at the takedowns. And when I'm talking about takedowns, here's the thing. Umar has better takedowns than Merab. Umar definitely has more wrestling, like Dagestani wrestling, and Merab is more like Georgian wrestling, right? The problem is, when we're looking at takedown defense, Umar's is 100%, but who hasn't? A lot of people haven't been able to take him down. Corey Sandhagen didn't try to take him down. And his grappling hasn't been tested against a very good wrestler. Corey Sandhagen, he couldn't, let's be real. If you watch that fight, Corey Sandhagen was doing very well in the grappling against Umar. And Umar pretty much wasn't able to hold down or take down Corey Sandhagen that often. He won based on his striking. But I don't see this happening with Merab. Merab has proven time and time again he can go against the best of the best when it comes to strikers. He dismantled Sean O'Malley's striking game. He dismantled Peter Yan's game. He dismantled Jose Aldo. I think Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, and Sean O'Malley are way better strikers than Umar. So it's like, what gives Umar the favoritism? I think it's because of the name. There's a lot of hype behind him. But in terms of pure wrestling skill and pure wrestling itself, I think Merab definitely takes this. Merab is a strong guy. He has cardio for days. This man's cardio is so good. This man will go 5 rounds, the same pressure, and he will not lose a single bit of energy. This man can go all day, all night. And I think Umar might not be able to handle that. I think Umar hasn't gone against someone like Merab, who can take the game to him, who can put the pressure on him. Umar has been kind of the guy who has this huge wrestling advantage, and this leads to people having to be wary of the takedown threat. But Merab doesn't have that. Merab isn't going to be worried about Umar's takedowns. I think this is very similar to the Islam versus Arman fight. These are two very good wrestlers and two very well-rounded fighters. This is going to be a game of inches. This is going to be who is going to initiate that takedown first, who is going to take the rounds. And I think in terms of control time, I think in terms of pressure, I think Merab is going to take that. I think Merab is going to show a lot of people, especially Dagestani guys, that he's not a guy to be messed with. Merab has the resume to prove that he should not be messed with. He pretty much dismantled. He beat 4 former bantamweight champions in his last 4 fights. So you got to look at it as okay. Now, if we're going off based on how these last fights went, let's say Umar has the better striking. I'm gonna be real. He has the better striking. He has the better kicks. He has the better distance management. He definitely has more power than Merab. And Umar definitely finishes a lot more people. But you got to look at it this way as well. Umar didn't fight a single ranked opponent until Corey Sandhagen, and it was a pretty close fight. Corey Sandhagen was giving him a ton of trouble. And this was Corey after a year off and off of surgery. And also, Corey has no wrestling. Compared to Merab, he destroyed Sean O'Malley, who everyone thought was going to beat him. And he pretty much not only made he exposed Sean O'Malley's ground game, he made Sean O'Malley look helpless in that cage. I mean, this was a clear case of a 49-46 against Sean O'Malley. He dismantled his game plan. Then let's look at Peter Yan. I'm going to be real, Peter Yan definitely has better striking than Umar, and he has good takedown defense. But Merab was able to take him down 11 times, and Peter Yan did not get a single break in that fight. It was really bad. It was a 50-45 clearly for Merab. Then you got to look at Henry Cejudo, who is former bantamweight champ and also an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. And Merab wrestled him very easily. So, in terms of pure wrestling, I think Merab takes his advantage, and I think Merab is definitely going to be able to kind of avoid Umar striking. I think Umar is going to have a problem in that cage. I think a lot of people are underestimating Merab, and if you're going to go for a pick right now, go with Merab. I believe in Merab. I think you should believe in Merab too. A lot of people don't. And, think this is mostly coming off emotions. It's coming off, I like Umar because he's Dagestani and he's undefeated. And, wow, the father storyline, who gives a fuck about that? That's emotions. That's wishy-washy fairy tale bullshit. If the father line story was true, Islam wouldn't have got knocked out by Pantoja. And again, that was a joke. But like, let's be real. We're looking at the facts here. We're looking at who has the better wrestling, who can really win this fight. I think Merab can. But Merab is doing this on short notice. Umar isn't. I think Merab is definitely kind of shooting himself in the foot by fighting this early. And I think Merab only had like a few weeks to prepare for this fight. I think this is going to be a very hard fight for him. I think it's definitely going to factor in something. But I think this is going to be a very hard fight for Umar. And honestly, unless if Umar somehow proves himself really good and he's able to knock out Merab, because let's face it, he's not submitting Merab. He's not. We haven't seen him actually submit anyone in the ranked. So, and if he was struggling to wrestle against a guy like Corey Sandhagen coming off of surgery, I don't really see him doing that to Merab. Merab is clearly better than Corey Sandhagen. So, I'm going with Merab here. Merab by decision. I don't think Merab's going to submit Umar, but I think Merab is going to put in that control time. He's going to put in the wrestling. I think what he's going to do is going to keep Umar against the cage, Keep that pressure on him, keep that control on him, avoid his strikes, kind of make it a clinch fest, like how he did against Peter Yan, Try to keep that pressure on him. Expose his takedown defense a lot. So, for sure, I think Merab got this. I think Merab can definitely win this. And if he does win this, I think we should put him as a case as one of the best bantamweights of all time, like a bantamweight GOAT. Because if he beats someone like Umar, he's beat Umar, Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan, Henry Cejudo, Jose Aldo, or Marlon Moraes. And he's also a champion who defended his belt. So, I think Merab, after this win, he could be in a case of bantamweight GOAT. And you know what? If he doesn't win this fight, I think he still has a case, if he beats more contenders. Like maybe he beats someone like Peter Yan again, or maybe a title eliminator between Sean O'Malley and Merab. Again, I don't really want that though. But for sure, Merab, I think this is a game of who is gonna initiate first, who is gonna be first in this fight. Is Umar gonna put this pressure on Merab? Is Umar gonna give Merab any trouble when it comes to the wrestling? I think Merab is gonna put the pressure on Umar. Merab has the cardio to do that. Merab, he's deconstructed so many good fighters. He's made them look helpless in the cage. I think Umar is going to get exposed in this fight. And honestly, based on what I've seen from Umar, I'm not convinced that he will destroy Merab. I'm not. Saw how close that Corey Sandhagen fight was. I think Umar, he's very young. He's a very young guy. So I think a lot of people are kind of seeing him as kind of ahead of Merab, but I think Merab, in terms of how this fight is going to go, I think Merab's game plan is going to shut down Umar's. I think that they're underestimating him in this fight. So, we'll see in this fight. I think this is going to be very entertaining. I think this is going to be such a good technical fight. We're going to see who's really the better wrestler, who can really put in that pressure. I think Merab is going to put that pressure. I think he's going to be first. I think he is going to put such a huge, immense load. I'm not going to try to say it like that. I think Merab is going to give Umar a ton of problems. He's going to hold him against the cage, and he's going to get a decision based on control time. Easy as that. Easy, plus 260 odd. Just put that. Put it in right now. Next, we got lastly, we got the lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. Man, this is a good one. This is something I've been waiting for. I thought it was going to happen in 308, but finally it's here, 311. And I think the odds right now, Islam is a very massive favorite, and I don't blame them at all. I think Islam is he's on a huge streak right now. He submitted Poirier. He knocked out Volkanovski. He submitted Charles Oliveira. I mean, this man is clearly very talented. Super talented. He's such a well-rounded fighter, too. He's a good striker. He was able to outstrike Poirier, which is something a lot of people haven't been able to expect. And he was able to he knocked out Volkanovski, which was very impressive. And also, he actually was on par with Volkanovski in the first fight in terms of the striking. Like, he definitely had Volkanovski tripping in some bits. So I think his striking has improved so much, and his wrestling is still very good. I mean, the man was able to submit the guy that submits everyone else. So, sure, I think this is such a huge technical fight because Arman Tsarukyan definitely has a lot going for him as well. I mean, we got Arman Tsarukyan. He's a very good wrestler, and his boxing and his power is something that could give Islam some trouble. And I'm thinking of it this way. I think Arman is going to be his toughest fight, and it's going to be a very close fight. I think Islam's going to come in there, and he's definitely going to do it like how he did in the first fight, you know? I think he's going to use that striking to kind of get himself ahead. But I think in terms of pure striking, I think Arman takes this. I think Arman has the better striking. And a lot of people are going to say, oh no, but he outstruck Poirier. We have to be real here. Poirier was giving him a ton of trouble on the feet. In rounds 2 and 4 and even 5, Islam was getting pieced up by Poirier. And Poirier had that takedown threat to worry about. So, of course, Islam was able to get a lot more hits in when Poirier's having his hands down, right? But Arman Tsarukyan's not going to have this problem. Arman Tsarukyan is going to come in here very invigorated, very ready. This is not going to be 3 weeks on short notice Arman that gave Islam one of his toughest fights. This is going to be a fully prepared, experienced, much more improved version of Arman. And I think Islam is going to have a ton of trouble with that. This is not going to be an easy fight for Islam. This is actually going to be one of his hardest fights. Harder than Volkanovski won, because at least Volkanovski had to worry about that takedown threat. He had to work, and Volkanovski wasn't able to be on par with Islam in terms of the wrestling and grappling. But Arman is. Arman is definitely, and Arman got power. He has power. He knocked out Dariush like it was nothing. And I think Islam, he tries to go for the submission when he's on the ground, and Arman tries to go for the ground and pound. So like they do things differently when they wrestle someone, when they get that takedown. And I think Islam could definitely submit Arman, but I really doubt it. I think this is like styles makes fights, you know. Charles was able to get a good choke on Arman just because of the fact Charles is very good on the ground when it comes to BJJ, and so is Islam as well. But Islam isn't like Charles, you know. Charles is very quick when it comes to his submissions. I mean, did you see how quick he had that guillotine against Arman? Islam's not doing that against him. He is not going to go for a guillotine that quickly. And I think Arman is going to come in here with a game plan. He's going to try to expose Islam's striking. I think this fight is going to be determined by who is landing the better shots, because I think Arman and Islam have matched each other in wrestling. I don't think Islam's going to hold Arman down. I don't think Arman's going to hold Islam down. This is going to be a very technical fight. And it's going to be one of the most technical fights we'll ever see, honestly. Because these are two of the most talented lightweights right now. Arman is super well-rounded. Islam is super well-rounded. They both got good striking. They both got good wrestling. They both got good grappling. So it's like, this is such an evenly matched fight. And I think, in my opinion, I think Arman could win this. I'm going to go with the underdog pick. Plus 320. I think Arman could definitely win this. And I mean, I don't want to bet against Islam. I haven't bet against Islam at all in the past, honestly, 4 fights. I bet, honestly, I like Charles Oliveira, but I knew Islam was going to win. I knew he was going to win against Volkanovski twice, and I knew he was going to win against Poirier. But it seems to me, it's like Poirier gave him a ton of trouble, and Volkanovski was able to make Islam look human in that fight, you know? And going off that, I just feel like Islam's kind of hitting his stride a bit. I feel like this is a huge step up in skill now, because he's now going against someone who's equally a good striker, equally a good wrestler. And I mean, we haven't seen him fight someone like that. Let's be real. Charles isn't a good wrestler. That's how he was able to. That's why he lost. Charles didn't have that wrestling to survive Islam. Volkanovski didn't either. He came in there, and everyone thought, and Volkanovski's a striker. People forget that. Volkanovski had to learn wrestling. And then Poirier, he came in and he defended a lot of Islam's takedowns when, let's be real, Poirier doesn't have good wrestling takedown defense. But Arman is different. Arman has good takedown defense. He could definitely give problems with Islam on the feet. And let's be real, people are basing this first fight. The first fight was 5 years ago, bro. And Arman was on short notice. Islam was a lot more prepared for that fight than Arman, and people could come in here and excuses like, "Oh, he got food poisoned. He was sick." He was like, "Let's just stop with the excuses, bro." Regardless if he was food poisoned or not, being on 3 weeks short notice against Islam isn't going to help your case. And Arman put up his toughest fight against him. If that fight went 5 rounds, it could have gone either way. So, I think this is now a 5-round fight. I think both these guys got good cardio, and I think this is going to be a really tough fight for Islam. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to be ballsy. I'm going to go with my gut here. I think Arman's going to take this. I think Arman's going to pull off such a huge upset. I think people are underestimating him heavily. You know, people are calling him rich boy. Oh, he doesn't have the good mentality. The fact that he made it this far while being rich actually shows he has better mentality. Because he did not have to be a good UFC fighter. He could have lived rich. He had all these things that he already had, and he still put himself through all the pain and all the torment, all the weight cuts, and he got himself to the top of the top. The cream of the crop. He put himself at the top level against these guys, and now he's fighting for the title while also not having he didn't have the struggles, you know. So I think Arman's just a hungrier fighter. I think Arman's going to come in here with such a huge good game plan against him, and I think Islam's going to have trouble. And you know what, this could definitely go for decision, and I think Arman could get it. I think Arman is going to put the hands on Islam. I think Arman just has better boxing. He has better defense. Islam's defense isn't that good. He was getting hit a ton by Poirier. And although Islam was able to get some outstruck Poirier, without that takedown threat, Poirier would probably have done better on the feet. And we've seen this a lot with fighters too. Good strikers tend to get worse at striking when they have to worry about the takedown. Arman doesn't have this problem. And I think Arman's going to put in the work on Islam. He's going to come in there the hungrier fighter. And for sure, I mean, the father plan and all that stuff, you know, it's all wishy-washy stuff. At the end of the day, it's a game of skill. It's a game of who comes in there the better fighter. I think Arman is going to go in there a lot more better prepped than Islam. But Islam is definitely going to put a huge fight up. And Islam can definitely win this. But I'm going to go with Arman. I'm going with underdog picks for these title fights, which is risky considering they're huge underdogs. But I'm going with Arman. I think Arman can get this done. He's for sure put in so much work. He's put in so much effort. He's gone through so many opponents, and he has proven himself to be one of the best, you know? So, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan by decision. I think Arman is going to get ahead of him in the feet. I think he's going to outstrike Islam, considering that Islam's boxing defense isn't that good. And you know what? I think Arman's going to be able to defend the takedowns and maybe edge himself. Oh my god, that sounded so fucking bad. I think it's going to edge out to a decision. That's going to favor Arman. Anyways, that's all I have for this video.